Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now November 14th of 2025, and given that we have a lot of examples going on right now based on what Hollywood and the film industry is going through, essentially how you have so many actors, actresses, writers, and directors getting way overly political and forcing their politics onto the general public, onto their own fans, that's causing many long-time loyal fans to walk away from whether it's an actor's work or a writer's work, whatever it may be. This is exactly why Hollywood right now is struggling, but it's not just that, it also has a lot to do with the financial aspects. This is exactly why you don't have as many families going out to the movie theaters, is because, well, there's a lot of people questioning themselves, why spend so much money on a movie to lend their hard-earned money to actors that have been lecturing them, politically speaking, and just saying such awful things about President Trump, Charlie Kirk, Erika Kirk, and among others out there. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, Will Smith, we know that in recent months he has actually gotten way more political than usual, and this absolutely came well after his concert tour, his overall style of making that musical comeback to really try to get back into his actual music career while also trying to make his acting career come back a actual success, and it really just did not work for numerous reasons. We'll tap into that later on. What's interesting though about this has a lot more to do with the consequences that Will Smith is now facing, and among others, other actors out there as well, and what they're facing based on what they had to say about Charlie Kirk, President Trump, and Trump supporters, MAGA in general, you name it. However, with of course Hollywood celebrities now facing the consequences based on their actions and what they had to say about Charlie Kirk and President Trump, already various studios are doing this by either, of course, blacklisting certain actors or axing them from projects. One major development that is now active involves more to do with actor Will Smith, who was recently fired from a studio after his numerous comments about Charlie Kirk and Trump went viral. It turns out that Apple Studios decided to take action quickly against Will Smith to save their image, where they were working on a film that was going to involve Will Smith as a politician and a political thriller, so to speak, that was going to include indirect jabs at the Trump presidency. Now, Smith's role was aimed to be essentially a political lawyer caught up in a cat-and-mouse game in the thriller film. The main reason, of course, Apple Studios decided to fire and axe Will Smith from this project was 100% due to his comments about Charlie Kirk, Erika Kirk, and President Trump, and his supporters, and how it really backfired on his career to a point that Apple Studios executives were put in a delicate position, mind you, to make the bold move by getting rid of Will Smith altogether. Now, Smith was reportedly enraged over the fact that Apple let him go from the project that was going to be something completely new for Smith to work on. Will and his team are already, of course, involved in an inflammatory conversation with Apple Studios, and how they believe what they did was a form of censorship over Will Smith expressing his political views. Now, to make matters worse, for Will's situation with Apple Studios is that this new development is spreading like wildfire within the corporate ladder of Hollywood and the entire film industry, where other studios are beginning to learn more about Will Smith's behavior, and this comes after Sony decided to cut Will Smith's payout for the Men in Black franchise by canceling films and getting rid of Jada Pinkett Smith from starring in Men in Black 5 and reducing his payout on a massive scale. Now guys, we talked about this as well. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Sony and Will Smith, they're not really on good terms right now. And it has a lot to do with his political comments. It also has a lot to do with Will Smith and the backlash surrounding his concert tour comeback and how that just did not work out well for him. And he was supposed to have multiple Men in Black movies lined up, all of which were reduced down to just one Men in Black movie, Men in Black 5 is what it's all dwindled down to right now, and even the payout for that film has been slashed essentially in half, and excluded Jada Pinkett Smith from playing Agent S as the romantic interest of Agent J in that film. So that's another thing. Now, we'll have more to talk about that down the road because there are new developments surrounding Sony. However, Apple Studios is still working on this political thriller. However, they are aiming to recast the role that Will Smith was supposed to play. Filming was supposed to begin by early 2026, roughly around January to February of next year, and that has now been delayed at least by 6 months as Apple searches for new talent, with potential rewrites on the horizon. With Will Smith also now going through struggles with Paramount and Warner Brothers, it's unclear if this will impact the likelihood of I Am Legend 2 getting made. However, setbacks have been applied due to Will Smith's behavior and the massive backlash that he caused. Will is already planning to also make a political podcast on a social media platform that so far is nameless. We don't really know which platform just yet. Very soon that he is preparing to announce in the coming months to use that as a supplement to his acting career comeback. So far, the studios supporting Will Smith are falling like dominoes, with Apple Studios as one of the first few to ditch Smith from a significant role for a genre that he hasn't touched in a very long while. Now, Will is also challenging Apple Studios to reverse their actions. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about Will. The fact that not only is he challenging Apple Studios, but the other fact that he's trying to, and is actually in the works, of creating a politically driven podcast for next year, I think that speaks volumes, that he's just not letting go of the politics, and intertwining your acting career with politics, it backfired. And that's exactly why Sony's caught up in a mess with Will Smith right now. It's why Apple Studios is now officially done with him. They want nothing to do with Will Smith ever again, or if at all. And this is also creating a bit of tension between himself, Paramount, and Warner Brothers. And look, as I brought this up a couple of minutes ago, this really could spell doom for the production of I Am Legend 2. And we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens with that. But look, that's basically the recipe of Will Smith's comeback. Sequels or remakes or something around those lines based on his past success points. Alright, we all saw this, new Bad Boys movies, the upcoming Men in Black 5 film, which may or may not be made ultimately if these tensions rise over at Sony. We have seen Will Smith having a lot of conversations out there with different studios, like Warner Brothers developing I Am Legend 2. That's another thing. I mean, it seems like Will Smith's acting career comeback is nothing more than a bunch of sequels at this point. That's what it's all about, because past work that were not sequels, they bombed at the box office. And in particular, Gemini Man, I believe is what it was called, that really did not settle well with a lot of people out there. However, continuing on, what's interesting about this yet again is the fact that Apple finally did something like what they did with Robert De Niro. They did the same exact thing in the early days, definitely within 2024 last year, early months of that year, when he really started to really come out political, excessively to the point that it really was not a good look for a lot of studios, and Apple took action, and among other studios also took action. So now it's beginning to happen with Will Smith. Do I think it's going to be as severe as Robert De Niro's case, where he actually lost a lot of opportunities with 5 or 6 studios? That's really left up in the air right now. We'll have to wait and see exactly how far this goes, but so far Apple is done with Will Smith. Tensions are rising between him and Sony, which could result in a cancellation of MIB5. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.